Welcome to The Watcher. I'm your cult leader, Tom Pot, and I just watched over the last few weeks Miss Marvel, the second half. And episode 4, 5, and 6. As I mentioned, I covered the first half in the last video. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. I'm mostly going to be talking about the finale, but if you want to hear some very quick, rushed thoughts on episode 4 and 5, go ahead. But there is a time code below. If you want to jump straight to the ending, why not? I have to say, I've never been more grateful that I made the decision to do this not weekly than I did with episode 5, because I don't have a lot to say on that one. But I have a little bit to say on episode 4 and 5. And it's funny because where I stopped with the last one in the halfway point definitely felt like a half, in that we went from New Jersey to Pakistan. And I was like, are we really going to go on a road trip to Pakistan? That feels a bit out of nowhere. Is that for the best of the show? No, in my opinion. Episode 4 was fine. There were things I liked about it, but I do feel like it kind of derailed the momentum. Hey, because trains. The momentum of the show a little bit. And also, and this is a criticism I saw online, that it's kind of an interesting one as well, but it feels like a lot of the street level heroes, so we had, Moon Knight before this, of course, that they're sort of like, hey, let's take this character who fights on the street and give them some, mythological background. Look, we're going to Pakistan to explore the origins of the Bangles. And it's like, yeah, is that for the best? I don't know. Is that unnecessarily convoluted backstory? Does it feel like padding? I'm not sure. But I did like that one of the things that wasn't padding was we were just on the plane to Pakistan. We just started. It wasn't like, Mom, I want to go to Pakistan. Well, I don't know. Beta or Beta. What was it? Beta? She wasn't calling her Beta. That would be a bit weird. You beta cuck. So no, they're going straight away to meet Kamala's cousins in Pakistan. And what I will say, it was refreshing to see another side of Pakistan, because these movies, anytime we go to Pakistan, it's like some American soldiers there or some warfare. It was nice to see a Pakistan that was pleasant and nice. I will say the way it was shot made it look kind of like one big nightclub. Everything was glowing lights and there was pulsating disco and lens flares and all sorts of effects. But yeah. As I said, Kamala is a djinn. It's just genetics. That's the way it is. But we meet her grandmother, and she basically says, like, last time the bangle was used, it saved Nanny's life. As we go through many, many times, she followed a trail of stars to get her home, to get on the train, and the train Kamala saw in her vision was obviously that one. I did like ABCD. They call it Kamala and ABCD, an American-born confused Desi, which was funny. We also have, interestingly enough, later on, there's a building, there's a restaurant that it seemingly says ABC, so American-born confused. So, that's interesting. I don't know if that was an Easter egg or just coincidence, but I did think it's also funny that as soon as she's like, I need to get to a train station, I need to do something, domino mask on, no one will recognize those cheekbones. Who could it be? But you have to accept that logic, I guess. We also get some Ant-Man graffiti at the train station. Again, that's nice to kind of show that the MCU, even though it seems like it's all going on in New York, does have an international influence and international flair to it. We get a cool fight scene between her and what's his name? Kareem of the Red Daggers. Red Daggers, of course, have a basis in the comics. This episode is called Turning Red. Seeing Red. Turning Red is the Pixar for them. Seeing Red, which I don't know if it has the name in the comics. As I pointed out so far, every episode has a name for a collected edition. I don't know if there is one called Seeing Red. Maybe in a more recent one there was. But they get a really good fight scene. This is one I have to say, and the Peter Parker, Kamala Khan comparisons are always valid. Certainly most valid here, because she's quipping and wisecracking, throwing out cultural references. We get references to Ninja Turtles, Donkey Kong, and eventually Terminator 2 straight away, so it's good. We also feel like it seems like she's gotten way better with her powers. That's something that I guess just happened over time, over the course of the series. Does it feel like it was kind of rushed to get her good at powers? That's possibly up to debate. I'm sure the internet's saying that already. But I also love there's a moment where it could have been cool and badass, where she uses hard light to catch a knife, and then she's like, I have her knife, and throws it, and it's just so shit. I like that. It's like, look, you might be better with your powers, but you're still mid. So she comes back with your man. They recognize that basically Kamala's not a clandestine, and realizes that he knows Aisha. So he brings her back, Khalil, to a restaurant as I said, called ABC. They go into a back room run by the Red Daggers, and Walid enters, who tells her basically, the grandmother's story. This is the thing of legend to us, and he tells her what the Jin really are, and they're not just like stories. They say, and we kind of get this again. This is a double beat because we got this in the last episode already, I think. But they're like, we're from another dimension, and a veil exists between the worlds, keeping them hidden. And as soon as that happens, our world will be destroyed. End of the world stuff, as always. And we have the bangle. We find out why that's so important, basically, because that's why it's important. Everyone wants it. You can get back to your own dimension. And there's an inscription on the bangle, which hasn't been brought up before, but it basically says, "What you seek is seeking you." I don't know if that had any thematic relevance, but anyway. The Jin, as we mentioned, were captured at the end of the last week's episode, the episode before this, and they're in a supermax prison, which made me go, what about the raft? Remember the raft? Is that not a thing anymore? But yeah, they're at a damage control supermax prison, not the raft. Which I guess is also because if they were at the raft, they'd have to get through all that ocean. Maybe they're like, the Jin wouldn't be able to do that, so just put them somewhere else. But yeah, they're being led to their cells, they overpower the guards and escape, and the Jin leave Cameron injured behind as they make their escape. They're like, you turned on us, fuck you. The nanny gives a great speech about her identity to Kamala, which I really like. And again, the whole thing was about finding your identity to a certain degree. Superhero identity or otherwise. See, duality. But yeah, she's like, my passport is Pakistani, my roots are Indian, all based on the English making a border while fleeing a country. That still stands, basically. It was interesting. Kamala meets with the Red Dragons, whereas again a kind of a love connection between her, Kamala, and seemingly every boy she meets. She sure is a teenage girl, isn't she? But yeah, her, Bruno, Cameron, Kareem, they're all. She's mad about all of them. But yeah, no, that doesn't really factor in. I guess it's just a bit of light flirting. But it also, what I like about this is that we get a moment between, and again, this doesn't matter in the broader scheme, so it's nice that they took the time to get this right. Nani meeting with Muniba, trying to catch up, and he basically says you're getting to the age where you shouldn't be living by yourself, and why don't you come to America and live with us? And her mother basically says, I assumed you left to get away from me. Muniba says that she needed change after being shunned by her neighbours because of her crazy mother, even after her father left. But her clinging to these theories hurt Muniba, as she felt she didn't need story, she needed a mother. So it was a sad moment, but it was also quite a nice moment that they shared it and addressed it. And again, we kind of get a motherly moment after that later on, when Kamala comes back as well, with the mother. And it's not this thing. Oh God, am I really going to bust the Carrie Fisher line or the Dominic Toretto of it's about family?
It's about family, and that's what's so powerful about it.
But it really is. And again, I think the women of the family are something very, very interesting, and I love the way they've done it. So shortly after that, we kind of learn that basically, they think it's Kamala's genetics that let her control the Noor. She gets a blue top from Walid, which I was like, is that going to be her costume? Could be. It feels like I keep being like, anytime she's got anything, I'm like, that's her costume. I kind of feels like it doesn't matter by the end anyway. But as that happens, the Jin attack, we get a really cool chase scene here. It's like running and driving. It was really, really well done. I really enjoyed it, I have to say. They try to escape on a bike at one point. Kamala has to drive a truck at one point. They flip the truck over. They drive tuk-tuks. All sorts of stuff is going on. I do want to say there's one point they get flung off a bike and they're going to land on the concrete, and she puts out hard light and they land on that. And that made me go is landing on hard light actually better than concrete, and why? I don't know what the texture or the feeling of it is, but anyway, they were fine. As they're being chased along the rooftops, Wally comes face to face with Najma, and seeing the other two, rather than fight her, he takes out the Jin that are chasing Kareem and Kamala, and is killed and gets thrown by the rooftop at a very dramatic moment. And as they continue to run, they run into a dead end, and we get a big fight scene between the Jin. And I was kind of surprised here. They were handling themselves, man. It feels like they weren't in any real danger. And at that moment, Najma lunges at Kamala with a knife, and it stabs the bangle. The world around her seems to tear, and suddenly Kamala's on a train track the day of the partition. Now, there's two things I will say before I get into episode 5. Number one, I will say I liked that brief moment in the train scene. I think they really captured kind of the sadness and emotion of people fleeing their country at that moment. I think that really worked. I also liked the changes to the credits. The change the credits are normally New Jersey. Now it's Pakistan and stuff. That was a nice touch. I think the titles were even in Arabic, but that was just a nice little addition, to show that she's a child of two worlds culturally, as well as, being human and superhuman, I guess. But then it led to episode 5. I was so glad I didn't have to do this weekly. I did not enjoy this episode. This episode, to me, was a filler. It was certainly the weakest episode of the show. I feel like it kind of killed some of the momentum. I don't think was necessary in some regards, because I feel like they filled in backstory that we'd already gotten. So why did you give us the backstory if you were going to show us again anyway? It feels like there's a couple of times that's happened in this show. But it's called Time and Again, certainly. Again, also a comic. India has gained independence from Pakistan, being partitioned. It's 1942. We get Arabic title cards again. Aisha is being chased and she fights off her attacker. And as she sleeps under a tree, the officer are placed to stay with food and shelter. And as time goes on, they fall in love. Aisha has a child. I'm just going to rush through this. Sana, of course, this is who it is, our nanny, as we kind of know her as well. And yeah, the times are tough. Najma visits them. She thought Aisha was dead, but now she knows she isn't. They can put their plan back into action. Basically, Aisha's like, I don't know about that, Najma. And Najma basically continues to push her for the bangle and says, we're going back to our dimension. It's a little bit imposing and threatening, and is what makes Aisha be like, well, we need to leave India and try to get to Pakistan on the train. So she has the bangle with her. She tells her husband, she puts the bangle on Sana, her daughter, and abandons her husband to try and keep Najma away. So she's trying to draw Najma away. However, Najma finds her and stabs Aisha, presumably fatally. Back on the train, Sana has been now separated from her father. She still has the bangle. Her father searches. Aisha hears their cries and looks at a photo of the family, of her daughter and husband, and she says basically, what you are seeking is seeking you, as the bangle in Sana's hand activates and Kamala Khan appears. Bring us back to where we were at the end of last week. And I should say, that was like half the episode. So I don't know what the narrative purpose of it was. We already know what happens at the train station. And I guess they didn't want to rush into that moment. But it really felt unnecessary. We know the history between Aisha and Najma already. We know where it's going to end up. It just didn't work for me. It was the shortest episode of this. So it might be the shortest MCU episode in general, to be honest. It was a very short episode compared to most. And half of it was taken up with stuff I don't think was necessary. But Kamala is there now, okay? She approaches Aisha, and her dying words, she basically says, to find Sana and protect the bangle. So Kamala finds Sana very easily and search for Hassan, who is her great-grandfather, Sana's father. You really have to learn the Kamala Khan family tree here, or the Khan family tree. And yeah, instead of following the stairs, she uses her powers to light platforms so Sana finds her father. Although it looks like Aisha maybe makes some stairs at the end. There is stairs there at the end, and Kamala's like, what? But then she says it was me, so I assume it was Kamala made stairs at the end, and then she figured it out. This sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, I guess, if you want to call it that, is an interesting idea. In execution, I don't think it was very well done, because why could she not just have brought Sana to her father? I genuinely don't know. Maybe there is something I missed here. I don't understand why she could seemingly see the father and she had to light the way for him. Is that less conspicuous than just picking her up and handing her? So it was a kind of, again, idea versus execution. I don't know if it really worked for me. I thought it was a cool idea in theory. Not entirely sure it worked though. But yeah, Kamala is now back in the present time in Pakistan. After last week's fight, so basically they're all kind of knocked out after the rift. Suddenly, they're surrounded by Jinn. The rift is still there, the veil to the other dimension. One of the Jinn tries to enter and is brutally destroyed. Now, the way they're destroyed is seemingly turned into rock and then eradicated. There was speculation on that. Is that speculation still valid? I'll get to it at the end of this episode. But then Kamala pleads with Najma that it will destroy everything. And she says, you still have Kamran. Aisha only wanted her family, and that's all Kamran wanted too. Najma approaches the rift and says Kamran's name, and the rift appears to close, but she dies in the process. Which felt really rushed. The villain, I would say, as much as I like the show, the villains are undoubtedly the weakest part of it, which is often the case with Marvel Origins in general. They weren't very strong. They were like, we want the bangle. Well, your son wants a family. That's what my mom wanted. Okay, well, I'll die then. It just wasn't good. It was very rushed. I think in theory it could have worked, but it just came out of nowhere to me. Doing this does give Cameron powers, as we see now that he's back in Jersey. We haven't been in Jersey for a while. But yeah, he's imbued with powers. These powers are seemingly the exact same pretty much as Kamala. They're kind of glowing blue. He does have powers in the comics as well, so, there's that. Moniba, using a phone, finds Kamala and sees her using her powers while this is going on, and she's shocked. Nani tells her that her family is magical. Kamala has the photo Aisha stared at when she died and gives it to Sana, which is, again, a nice moment. And that's what I mean. There's stuff going on in this where, like, I don't know about that, but there is a lot of nice moments that do work. She catches up with Kareem, says goodbye. She invites her to America, but he's like, yeah, I've got ties to Red Daggers. Man, like, so many government watch this. I probably won't be there. He gives her a scarf to remember her. Costume? I don't know. I feel like anytime there's, like, any red scarf, I'm like, that's it. There it is. Probably not. Moniba finds a necklace that Kamala owns. That is interesting. And it does explain something that happens later on in the last episode with regards to the costume. But she has a necklace, and it's broken. And the way it's been kind of broken now is that it looks like a lightning bolt. So, yeah. So there you go. It's all coming together. This costume. Back in New Jersey, Cameron talks to Bruno now that he has powers. They have a very awkward conversation or two. And hey, at least he wasn't being a dick. He actually thought his name was Brian. But we see a damage control drone appears outside the window and attacks, firing a missile into the Circle K, and credits. I mentioned in the last video, I was like, they said they wanted to do somewhere where they could do the rift because it could cause damage. I mean, it didn't really do damage, but and I said there was a location they could do it in that I saw exploding one of the trailers. The Circle K is what explodes, which didn't feel like a big deal in the end going into episode 6. As I said, episode 5 was not for me. I felt like there was so much time wasted on backstory that didn't need to be fleshed out. I feel like the choices were a little bit rushed. I feel like the moment of her mother learning about her having powers was a little bit brushed over, quite honestly. So it was an episode that didn't work for me. And certainly as the penultimate episode was a bit of a letdown. Would I have better luck with the finale, titled No Normal? As I mentioned in the first video, we had episodes named after the second volume, we had episodes named after the third volume, and now, at long last, we have an episode named after the first volume. And it actually does have a basis in the episode as well. There is a line that involves No Normal. So let's dive into it. I will say, before I get into it, what did I think of the finale? I enjoyed it. I actually think it was one of the stronger finales in Marvel TV. I think some of the finales for Marvel have been a little bit, let's not change the status quo too much. Let's just give someone a new costume. And I feel like, there's certainly elements of that you could throw that out here. It did retain the classic Marvel trope of, hey, you get a new costume, we're at the ending of the show, here you go. But, overall, I thought it was very good. And I actually would prefer to see a second season of this than some of the other shows. Like some shows I'm like, yeah, I don't need any more of that. I wouldn't mind a second show of this. I will say something I was going to address about episode 5. When the Jinn touched the portal, they turn to rock and then seemingly kind of get smashed. We see a skeleton at some point. So they seemingly are dead. A lot of people were suggesting that could be like in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. we see the Terrigenesis when they're Inhumans and they become big rock pillars. Seems less likely after the finale. I guess they could always retrofit that if they wanted, but also I always thought that it wouldn't have happened that quick in general if they were to become Inhumans, but I don't know. It's possible, I guess. So let's get into the finale. The Circle Q has exploded, and damage control say a kind of. It's very clearly they're targeting kids. I'm not going to say Young Avengers because I say Young Avengers in like every video. I'm like, oh, it's the Young Avengers. That guy's a Young Avenger. I don't know, But they do say this is what happens when the wrong people get powers, and you're like, oh fuck, it's going to go a racist direction here, and they're like kids, and they're like, oh phew, okay, they're only focused on kids, that's alright, they're not racist. Well, they so they chase Cameron through the subway. Kamala tells the rest of the family that she's Nightlight, not an official name, but that's they all kind of already know because her father, said like her mother said to her father, the father was on speakerphone. Everyone knows now. But they all love and support her, even though they kind of have some concern. It's kind of quickly brushed over. Again, that probably is something you could have done in episode 5. But hey, whatever. So Muniba made her a costume. It has the traditional lightning bolt. It has the red scarf. I assume that this is the blue thing that Wally gave her. And that she made the lightning bolt inspired by a necklace. I'm not sure, but hey, she needed a new costume. It's episode 6, man. We have to keep this streak going. Kamala runs through the city on the platforms. It's cool. This is like her first superhero moment. I would have loved more of her just going around doing stuff in the city like this. I will say, man, you better work on your cardio, Kamala, because like it's basically just I'm running, but I'm running above people, so I don't have to worry about getting in people's way. It's so. Yeah, I mean, she's definitely gotten better at her powers, but also better keep up that cardio if you just have to run everywhere. So, on the other hand, Bruno takes Cameron to the mosque to keep him safe, as Nakia reminds them this is a mosque. In America, everyone keeps their eyes on them. You're not necessarily going to be safe here. And soon enough, on cue, damage control come in. I loved the way the mosque fucked with damage control here. They're like, hey, we're looking for someone like age 14, 25, possibly, Muslim male or whatever, and they're all like, that describes nearly everyone here. And they're like, we need to see ID. Everyone straight away is like, ID. And straight away there's a guy like, hey, I bought you cookies. And they're like, they won't like your cookies. And they're like, they will love my cookies. I don't know why. Something like that, like just taking that one moment was like great. The sheik, I should call him. I called him like an imam. I don't know, maybe that was an incorrect term. Sheik is what we'll use, I guess. But he is like the Uncle freaking Ben of this show. He gave some great lines to Kamala and great advice in the last few episodes. Here he busts such a great line. He says, just because someone treats you as their enemy doesn't give you the right to treat them as yours. Zen. This man, I would vote for him. What a man. Kamala, by the way, is now fully kitted out. She catches up with the lads as they try to flee the mosque. She looks perfect. Love the costume. Love the look of Kamala Khan. It's Miss Marvel. It is perfectly adapted. One of the better costumes in the MCU, certainly on television. There's no complaints to have this costume. It is ideal. I mean, costumes in the MCU in general are pretty on point. I thought this was a great look. Very well done. Cameron can control his powers. At one point, it seems like he's being kind of attacked from the inside. He's kind of like screaming and, things are going mad. And we hear Najma calling out to him. Now, I think that was it the same audio she said when she touched the rift? I don't think it's suggesting she's alive, but it's something to be aware of anyway. Maybe he's being unduly influenced by her, who knows. But she calls Kareem and asks if there's someone who can get him out of America. He says that there is, but that he needs to get to the harbour by midnight. So that's kind of our goal, get Kareem out by midnight, which, it's kind of funny that they're like, get rid of him. You can stay. You can stay, Kamala, you're fine. But they go to the high school, and at high school, Naki is also there. She's annoyed that Kamala didn't tell her she was a hero. But it was a nice moment. It wasn't like a big conflict. It was immediately resolved. Pretty much everyone is at the high school, by the way. Zoe Zimmer is here, who we haven't seen in a few episodes either, of course. She was kind of a bit of a bitchy character, but they didn't give her a lot of time in general. But she was questioned by Damage Control about what happened at AvengerCon. And now she was like, they're like, what are you doing here? She was filming TikToks in the theater, very teenager-y. But she says, Damage Control tried to trick me into giving you up. I don't know, did she know that it was Kamala? I don't know. So I don't know if she could have given her up anyway, but Zoe offers to help as she owes Kamala for saving her life. Now I do also, didn't she also kind of, endanger her life? But hey, we won't brush past that. Amir, Kamala's brother, is also there. He's like, Mom sent me to keep an eye on you. Like, it's just like, hey, your Kamala's in danger there being a superhero. You get over there and keep her safe. They're like, she has powers, he doesn't, But sure, fine, whatever. And they make their plan with a plan Kevin McAllister would have been proud of. It's very Home Alone. So Amir and Zoe are going to gather supplies, which is all the hoodies. Bruno and Kamala are working on something in the lab. They collect all the fire extinguishers. Zoe and Nakia start to gather all the softballs, and the goal is to stall damage control with softballs while Zoe is the real plan. But what? They said Zoe is the real plan. I'm not entirely sure, actually. Oh, yes, I do know. I was like, that was where my notes ended. I was like, when was she the real plan? But I'll get to that in a sec. So, Cleary, who, as I mentioned, is in Spider-Man No Way Home. I've also forgotten the actor's name. He's in Succession, and I was looking at it during the week. I was like, who is he? But yeah, so we have Cleary, who's kind of above the other agent, who's Agent Deaver. And basically, Cleary calls her and he's like, you need to pull out of there. You're not doing this. You're not attacking teenagers at high school. That's a very bad look. Which, yeah, it really is. But she's like, no, I need additional units. We're doing this. Which, what did you think was the best thing that would happen there? She devises orders. Nakia questions, and this was a nice one as well, questions why Zoe didn't say anything, as that is not like her. But she says she thinks Kamala should have the right to tell people when she's ready. Which is nice. Zoe is a character that, is normally the kind of bitchy character in the comics. She didn't really get much in this, but, it's nice to see some good characters throw through. Kamala tells Bruno what happened in Pakistan, that the Jinn seemed intent on destroying their world with their rift, but Kamala stopped them, but Najma didn't make it, and Bruno insists they don't tell Cameron until they're out of there. Might have been a good call. Amir grills Cameron about who he really is. This was a strange moment because it was building up tension, and there was kind of a pulsing heartbeat kind of sound at the back. It was like boop, boop, boop. But this really did feel like a joke. But because of the underlying music, it sounded kind of tense. He's like, oh, so you're my cousin, huh? Do you really like Bake Off? Boop, 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 boop. I don't know, it was kind of funny. Unintentionally, I think. But Amir trusts him because his sister does. So that's why there's no bad blood there. Damage control at this moment breached the school. And straight away they run into something and they think it's a bomb. But it's actually a Bluetooth speaker. Funny because Thor Love and Thunder, my review just gone up on the channel if you want to check that out. Also was a joke about an explosive looking like a Bluetooth speaker, or vice versa, Bluetooth speaker looking like an explosive, so that's kind of funny. But they all run around in hoodies to try and create a diversion of Cameron. So like, in other words, Cameron comes up in a hoodie and he's like, you have to catch me, blah blah blah, but they all look like him now. So they're all chasing the wrong person, I guess. They're creating a diversion. This is where Zoe becomes part of the plan. She sends out a message on Instagram, I guess it was, or TikTok, or social media in general, that people need to come to the school, that they're being attacked, that the school's being attacked, that some government body, damage control, are attacking kids in school. Come and help, blah, blah, blah. Then they start using the fire extinguishers to kind of create bad visibility. I also want to shout out the soundtrack at this moment. It was really good. I think the soundtrack in general has been really underrated. I thought it had a very unique taste to it, and it was really enjoyable, and it shined here as well. So they use the fire extinguishers to create bad visibility. And then we see what they were up to in the lab, which was a cool moment, but didn't really feel as connected with the other ones, where like they go in there. It's just off a sort of Rube Goldberg machine that ends up in creating a giant snake experiment, where the foam is like, but it's massive, there's foam everywhere. Again, it felt like a kind of one-off as opposed to the rest of stuff all kind of tying together, but sure. Cameron and Kamala hide together. They're seemingly cornered, but a diversion, and I guess this could have been the snake experiment, so it did kind of work maybe, takes them away from each other. They hold hands, and we see that their kind of hands are glowing their individual powers, and it looks like they're going to kiss. But Bruno, although I would prefer if Bruno was the guy to stay around, because as we see, Cameron maybe not the best guy. But he interrupts and tells them they need to move. Cameron thanks him sincerely, and Bruno causes a diversion so they can escape. You could kind of suggest that, damage control will probably be way more lethal, just being like, hey, there's a kid. But yeah, they definitely use the kitty gloves, although Bruno here gets like butted by a gun. The rest of them do get all apprehended as well, and they're arrested and thrown in the back of a paddy wagon. So Cameron at this moment, it's basically Cameron and Kamala are the only ones left, but they're in a, I think it's a bathroom, and he seems very apprehensive. He's like, you're sending me to meet Red Daggers. They've been fighting with the clandestines for decades. He says he needs Najma and wants to know what happened. But as he asks this, damage control breach the window they plan to escape from. And Cameron seems determined to take damage control out. He's not as caring about their condition. He's like trying to hurt them. There was once where Kamala blocks him, and as that happens, Kamala tells Cameron what happened and that she was going to destroy everything. And he says she was trying to save his home. Not great bedside manner, Kamala. Don't be like, oh, geez, he nearly killed someone. Hey, by the way, your mother died. But yeah, Cameron is taking out the squad, set to attack, and he moves in for the kill, but Kamala stops him. And it looks like they're really squaring off, and it's going to be a showdown, and they're going to fight. The school, by now, thanks to Zoe, is swarmed by protesters, being held back by police. And Cameron exits the school. It looks like it's going to be a big showdown. He attacks the damage control squad, who open fire. He's, it looks like he's in trouble, though. Kamala jumps down and shields him using her hard light. And yeah, it looks like they're in a tough spot. But what I did love here, and this is well done, so she's shielding him from gunfire. It seems like they're okay, but it seems like the shield is kind of breaking away a little bit. They cut to her parents, and it really hammered home the emotions of them. It made us kind of go like, oh shoot. It really made the things a bit more bearable, a bit more believable, and the threat feel a bit more real there. So damage control have some sort of sonar cannon, which is basically, so we saw them like small versions of guns. This is a big one. They fired at them, and both of them kind of lose their powers and they don't lose their powers, I should say. It breaks through their shields and they get thrown aside. But as the cannon reloads, Kamala says a perfectly crumulent word, "Embiggen," and she leaps to take out the cannon. She's way bigger now. Takes out the cannon, and she throws projectiles to take out damage control as well. I should say that's probably something that people wanted. People wanted her to be a bit bigger. They certainly leave that possibility here, and it worked. Again, the effects, a little bit janky. I don't want to, given what's been said about Marvel VFX lately, I don't want to dig on the effects too much, or put blame at anyone's doorstep except Marvel. But yeah, it was cool. It was nice to have that moment. And she said the thing. Cameron is using his powers more viciously to take damage control out. We kind of get a moment of him attacking people from underneath trucks, taking a lot of people out, being quite vicious. I really liked the way it was shot. There was a few kind of long continuous shots instead of multiple cuts. It really hammered home the brutality of him compared to Kamala. I really enjoyed the way it was shot, and it was interesting. But he's reckless and dangerous. He launches a jeep, which is going straight for the crowd, but Kamala catches it. Again, good job playing up their differences and how she's a bit more responsible and knows how to use her powers. Deaver aims at Cameron, but he screams, and doing that shoots hard light all over. Seemingly with no real control. Again, he's coming off as more reckless. Kamala approaches him and creates a dome around the two of them so they can speak, but also protect them. And it's basically kind of reminded me of the X-Men a little bit, which seems appropriate given what happens later on, but they'll never accept us. Your mom sacrificed herself for you. Look at what I've done. That kind of stuff. Real kind of Professor X Magneto talk. But then we get the line that gives us the title of the episode and fits into, I guess, the title of the biography, or not biography, of the collected edition of it as well. He says, "How can I be normal?" And she says, "There is no normal." Which, yeah, fair enough. And this is kind of snaps him out of it a bit. She's like, "I'll buy you some time," and she punches a hole, Nick Fury style, like he does in Winter Soldier, into the tarmac, and he just goes down the hole. Which, I don't know, how far from the harbour were they? Is he just going to keep smashing his way underground to get to the harbour? Is he just going to take the nearest manhole? I don't know, but hey, I'm sure he escapes. I'll take your word for it, show. So that's what happens, and the public and the police are now they gather around Kamala so that damage control can't take her. That's right, the police are even there creating a barricade around her. Kamala uses this chance to run over their heads and escape. She starts using the platforms and runs away from the situation, seemingly away from damage control. And the other person that's going to be getting away from damage control is Deaver, who gets a call from Agent Cleary telling her to get out. She's relieved from duty and someone is coming to fix her mess. The community afterwards, we kind of see that they're showing pride and joy in their new hero, that their representation, a hero for them. Kamala's watching it all unfold in social media with happiness, and I really like this bit as well. It creates some symmetry with the first episode when we saw her looking in the mirror kind of uncertain and unsure of herself and not comfortable with who she was. Here she's standing in front of the mirror in her full costume, content and happy. It was a nice moment of acceptance for her that I thought really, really worked. So that's what's gone on. We have a moment after this where she's on top of her porch at home, and Abu sits with her father, trying to figure out what she should call herself. And as he's thinking about that, we actually get a montage. The montage is interesting because we see Bruno slipping a letter into her locker. He's bound for Caltech because he's got a hoodie that's Caltech. But we also get later on we see 1 week later and he's still there. So maybe school out. I don't know. Or is she going to get that letter and we'll never find it out, or will we find it out at some point? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter at all. But Nakia tries to improve the mosque. Cameron has made it to Pakistan and he meets with Kareem. We never really see what happens after that. But yeah, that's what seemingly happened. The montage was a bit strange in its placement because we were in the middle of a scene with the father. But sure. So we go back now with the father, and he says that, do you know why we named you Kamala? And he says that they tried for years to have another child and they couldn't have one for a long time. And then when she arrived, she was perfect. That's what Kamal means in Arabic. Perfect. Which comes straight from the comics again. Was very nice. Here is something I don't think is in the comics, or certainly not in the early volumes, certainly not early on, but in Urdu, it says it means wonder or marvel, like wondrous, wonderful is what I think it means, but marvel. And, she's like, you're telling me I have the same name as Carol Danvers. Of course, the dad's like, who? But yeah, so I like that they took something from the comics and mixed it with something new, which I think has been kind of the goal of the show in general. And again, maybe that isn't some of the studio comics. I haven't read them all. But yeah, it was very cool the way they did that. Then it's a little bit on the nose. He says, you have always been our own little Miss Marvel. I actually think that's a lot better and a lot stronger for the origin of her name. And, it used to just be, I like Captain Marvel. I'll take Miss Marvel as a name. So I think this is actually stronger. I think it really does work. It's nice. And I don't know. Why was I emotional? It just was very nice. It's a testament to the family relationships they built over the course of these episodes and the performances from all these actors. But yeah, it was very nice. And she takes off running through the sky, surveying the city on a lamppost, looking at, I guess, New York across the water. It was nice, So it was kind of, it established that she's a smaller, more personal hero. And I enjoyed it. But we're not done. 1 week later, Bruno has Cameron's car. Because, Cameron's not here. He left the car, I guess. Bruno wants to take it to Caltech, but Nakia and Kamala thinks it's to stay in Jersey. This is where it gets interesting. He was looking at her genetic makeup. You perv. Stop looking at her genetic makeup. And he noticed something about her genes. Because he said Amir was curious if he had powers as well. But he says there's something different in your genes. A mutation. Now, of course, in the comics, she is an Inhuman. A lot of the speculation was, could she be an Inhuman? There's certainly the possibility. That was something that they kind of teased throughout, I think, that it was more likely she was an Inhuman. But of course, mutant is what we associate with the X-Men, and in case there was any doubt, we get the tiniest sound back, and I didn't hear it the first time, and I saw it in the credits then, and I went back, and I did indeed hear it. The X-Men 97 theme, which is, first of all, an awesome fucking theme. But if you listen when he says that, you hear like da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and that's it. Which is frustrating, because anytime I hear like da-da-da-da-da-da, I'm like da-da-da-da-da-da. I need more. Don't cut it off there. Keep it going. But yeah. So she's the first mutant introduced into the MCU? Maybe? Creates a lot of questions. Issues. I'll come back to that in a sec, because I'll just finish off that scene and then I'll talk about the mid credits after. But yeah, she's like, it's just another label. So yeah, it's almost like they're like, hey, it doesn't matter. She's an Inhuman or a mutant. She's Kamala Khan. She's Miss Marvel. Who cares? Nakia has got the keys and she has get in losers. We're getting shawarma. So it's like they mixed Mean Girls and the Avengers and that meme that was going around when they filmed that movie, and that's how it ends. But okay, let's get back to the mutant of it all. The mutant elephant in the room. So they talked recently about how they were like, the origins of Miss Marvel were very of its time. And what they meant by that was it came at a time when Disney didn't have the rights to the X-Men. So there was a big push. Basically, any mutant they created was going to go to Fox. So there was a big push to make the Inhumans more relevant and a bigger deal. And it's funny how times change, because the people now are complaining, oh, they're sidelining the Inhumans. How dare they? That's inhuman erasure. This was the argument that took place in comics over a decade ago, which was, why are they sidelining the X-Men? Why are they making the X-Men irrelevant in the comics? But now we have the opposite effect. I mean, I was surprised. I will put it that way. I was surprised that they're introducing the mutants into the MCU this way. But at the same point, I mean, we just had Professor X. I guess I can say it now. In Doctor Strange, I was like, did I just spoil something? I mean, it's all over the place at this point. So, does it really matter? I don't think it's a big deal, but I'm speaking specifically to people freaking out about her being a mutant. I think I have no problem with her being a mutant. I think she was an Inhuman at the time. She's a mutant now. I should also say, I believe in the comics, they thought she was a mutant at first until Wolverine did some testing with Bruno, maybe. And then they're like, no, actually, she is an Inhuman. So, they could always do that. I don't think that would be very good. Then again, it could just be a total tease. It's like he used the word mutation and we're like mutants, but then again, playing the X-Men team kind of possibly ruins that. But then again, I don't have any problem with her being a mutant. I don't know why you would. I mean, the Inhumans can come back at some point. They've made some appearances already. God, it's so hard. There's so much Marvel stuff you can easily spoil. But what else what are they really going to do with the Inhumans? There's kind of all sorts of questions of what they could do, and I think they will probably do something with the Inhumans at some point. But I think there's more urgency to bring the mutants into the MCU than the Inhumans. So, in that regard, it probably makes more sense for her to be a mutant. But I also feel like, I like that the movies and comics can be different in that regard. And in the grand scheme of things, does it really matter? That she's a mutant instead of an Inhuman. I don't think it's going to be like, and now Miss Marvel going to Professor X's class. I don't think she's going to go to the Xavier Academy or anything like that. I think it'll just be like, yeah, she's a mutant. That's something you should know. But I don't know. I liked it personally. Some people are going to freak out about it, as they do. But hey, I was fine with it. I thought it was a nice little twist. Will anything come of it? Who knows? I'll tell you what we will get something out of. The mid-credit scene. And I was actually really grateful the way this was handled, because I remember thinking, the way the show was coming to an end, I was like, are they going to get a Captain Marvel cameo? And I was like, I really think it would kind of undercut everything if she just showed up now. I thought she might show up when she was in her room. And I was like, this is how you get a name. And I was like, God, if it shows up, it'll really undercut the great family dynamic and him getting her name and all that stuff and her battling this personally. So I was glad that they did it this way, because it's removed from the story. So she's just sitting on her bed, and the bangle begins to glow. And she stands up, and she gets thrown into her closet. Her wardrobe. I said closet because it's American. Sorry, I should be saying it like New Jersey. The closet! Is that how they speak in New Jersey? Oh, it's a closet over there. Is that New York? I don't know. She gets thrown into her closet, her wardrobe. And then someone gets out, but it's not her. It's Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, who walks around confused. She looks terrified, which you would be, I guess, if you were imagine if some celebrity just ended up in a room surrounded by pictures and posters on her wall. She was like, oh my God, I might go out to be killed. She's like, oh, this Captain Marvel stuff, this is weird. But she looks confused. And it says Miss Marvel will return in the Marvels. What does that mean? Seemingly they swap places. It has something to do with the bangle. Is there a chance that Carol found the second bangle? Who knows? I just hope she was in a safe place to wherever they launched Kamala. I hope it wasn't like, oh, I'm in deep space, so now Kamala Khan is just in the middle of space like, I don't know how much that scene is going to tie in. I mean, obviously it's set up for the movie, but is it literally going to pick up from that point? Is it going to be a scene in the middle of the Marvels? I'd like if we kind of got You know, I want. What I'm saying is, I want the scene where Captain Marvel walks down the stairs and it's like, oh, hello, Muniba. I don't know where your daughter is. She's probably on a different planet. See ya. Oh, that was fun. But yes, this show in general, I really liked it. I feel like if 4 and 5 were a little bit better, a bit more connected, it would have been even stronger. But the big question, I'm sure this is going to be in the thumbnail of my video, clickbaity, did it stick the landing? Yellow circle around Kamala's face. DNA symbol. I'm not putting that stuff in the thumbnail. Did it stick the landing? Did it stick the superhero landing? Yeah. Overall, it did. I think this is one of the better and one of the stronger Marvel shows. But I also feel like, you know, taste is up to everyone. Like, I feel like WandaVision I really liked. Loki I enjoyed. Miss Marvel and Hawkeye, aside from that, will probably be in my top 3. Miss Marvel, Hawkeye, and probably WandaVision will be my top 3. And, you know, I didn't dislike some of the other ones, but I didn't, you know, Moon Knight was fine. But this is one I really enjoyed. I feel like it found a good balance between being connected to the MCU and telling its own story. As I said, I want another season of this. I'd like to just see her, you know, just being a teenage superhero in New Jersey. I think that would be great. Are we going to get it? Who knows where we stand after the Marvels. But that's it. That's Miss Marvel. That is The Watcher. If you want more Marvel stuff, I'm hopefully going to have a lot more Marvel stuff on the channel soon. But until then, I have my Thor Love and Thunder review out if you want to check that out. Next show is it August 17th? I think it is She-Hulk. From what I'm hearing of that, it's like going to be more sitcom-y. Yeah, it's August 17th. It's going to be more sitcom-y, so probably more disposable. I will do something on it. I don't think it'll be week to week. I don't know. Will it be, you know, half a season, half a season? I think, is it there 9 episodes for that? There's more, I think, anyway. But I don't know. I don't know when The Watcher will return, but it will cover some of the Marvel TV shows and maybe some more stuff as well. Certainly I could bring the rewatcher back hopefully soon, so stick around for that. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like. Let me know what you thought of Miss Marvel in the comments below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? How do you feel about Kamala being a mutant instead of an Inhuman? Does it really grind your gears? I want to know, but be nice about it. I really don't want to start an argument in the comments. Either way, if you want to make sure you don't miss anything more from me, be sure to press subscribe. Please come back next time, whatever it may be, because remember, I'll be watching. Take care.